Like and subscribe right now, or this spider will crawl on your face when you're sleeping. Everyone loves mysterious ghost stories, especially ones that include ships and sea. And not all ships are just legends. Today, we are looking at some of the most mysterious abandoned ships. These ghost ships aren't home to phantom sailors. The Patriot. Aaron Burr, the third Vice President of the United States, is most famous for killing former Treasury Secretary Alexander Hamilton in a duel. But Burr's life was spoiled by another death. His daughter, Theodosia, disappeared at sea at the age of 29, along with the rest of the passengers and crew on a schooner called the Patriot. The Patriot was traveling from Charleston, South Carolina, to New York City in December 1812 with Theodosia Burr aboard on a journey to visit her father. The last sighting of the ship was on January 2, 1813, according to the blog North Carolina Shipwrecks. That night, a storm blew in. The ship was never heard from again. Burr believed for the rest of his life that the ship sank and that his daughter was dead. But rumors flew about the ship's fate. Some said that the ship had not gone down in bad weather, but had been captured by pirates, and the crew and passengers were taken prisoner or murdered. For years, there were rumors that Theodosia Burr had survived or washed ashore dead, or that her murderers had confessed. Perhaps one of the spookiest occurrences was in the 1869 discovery of a painting of a well-heeled young woman in the home of a North Carolina woman whose family looted ships for a living. It had been found aboard an abandoned vessel that had drifted ashore at Nag's Head on the Outer Banks, she told the doctor who treated her. Theodosia Burr was said to have been bringing a very similar portrait to New York as a gift to her father. The Sam Ratulongi. This Myanmar ghost ship mystery is a pretty recent one, and one that has most likely been solved. In Myanmar, also known as Burma, the ghost ship was the Sam Ratulongi PB 1600 freighter, and fishermen found it off the coast of Myanmar, empty of people and cargo, in August of 2018. Shortly afterward, though, Myanmar's Navy discovered that the freighter had been on its way to a shipbreaking plant to be dismantled, being towed by a tugboat when bad weather hit. The cable connecting it to the tugboat snapped, so the Myanmar ghost ship was abandoned by its crew. The Carroll A. Deering. Back in 1920, the Carroll A. Deering cargo ship and its 10-man crew managed to make it to Rio de Janeiro, despite needing to change captains when its main one fell ill. But something odd occurred on the way back to Virginia. A lightship keeper in North Carolina said a crewman who didn't seem very professional reported that the ship had lost its anchors while the rest of the crew was trailing around suspiciously. Another ship saw the Carroll A. Deering near Outer Banks the next day, in an area that seemed to be a strange path for a ship on its way to Norfolk, Virginia. The day after that, a shipwreck was spotted, but dangerous conditions kept investigators aside for 4 days. When they went aboard, they found food set out as though they were getting ready for a meal, but the crew's personal belongings and lifeboats were all gone. The federal government followed any leads on pirates, mutinies, and much more, but nothing came of it. The Jian Seng. Some ghost ships are so mysterious that they don't even have a solid backstory to go with it. In 2006, the Australian Coast Watch found a ship floating in the sea. It had a broken tow rope, so that could explain why it was empty, as it was lost while being dragged around the water. But that was all that the investigators had to go off of. The name Jian Seng was printed on the side, but there was nothing else to identify the ship by. Investigations found no record of distress signals, no identification documents or belongings, and no reports of a missing boat. They couldn't even figure out who it belonged to or where it had come from. The most they could figure out is that it used to supply food and fuel to fishing boats, but that didn't answer why no one tried to save it when it broke off. The nameless ship. Sometime in the early-middle 1800s, a copper-plated wooden vessel sank 200 miles off the coast into the waters of the Gulf of Mexico. In 2011, a seafloor survey by oil giant Shell noticed a blip in a sonar survey. The National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration, or NOAA, launched a mission to investigate, and in 2012 discovered the rotting hull, a ship's stove, and a variety of ceramic plates and glass bottles. National Geographic reported that later visits to the wreck revealed muskets, cannons, and eyeglasses. According to the reports, the wreck could be anything from a passenger's vessel to a pirate ship, the MV Joyita. In 1955, the merchant ship MV Joyita took off on its 2-day journey in the South Pacific. However, it would never end up reaching its destination. The rescue team's search did not turn up anything, and it wasn't until more than a month later that another captain spotted the half-sunken ship. There was no sign of any of the 25 passengers, and an investigation concluded its demise to be unexplainable. Over the years, dark theories kept circulating. Anything from Soviet submariners kidnapping the crew to Japanese fishermen killing everyone on board. As recent as 2002, family members were still researching what could have gone wrong, and one professor insists the most likely scenario is that a corroded pipe was leaking and flooded the boat, forcing the crew to abandon ship. High Aim Number 6. The fishing boat High Aim Number 6 took off from Taiwan on Halloween in 2002. But people dressed up for trick-or-treating wouldn't be the only ghosts that night. In January of 2003, when the Australian Navy came across the ship, it was clear that something was off. The engine was on full throttle, and the main gas tank was empty, but the auxiliary fuel tanks were still full and were not touched. 10 tons of bonito tuna were still cold, but not a single crew member could be located. It was said to be one of the most mysterious abandoned ships of all time, until one crew member was found. An Indonesian fisherman was arrested, and he confessed that the crew had worked with pirates to kill the ship's captain and main engineer, but the reason is still a mystery. The Nina Yacht. Back in 2013, the Nina Yacht's crew reached out to meteorologists as they were concerned about the dangerous weather conditions. Then, all of a sudden, they stopped responding. It became clear pretty soon that as a result of the 70-mile-per-hour winds and 26-foot-high waves, the boat had met a terrible end and never made it through the storm. A useless search effort might have been the end of it if it wasn't for a strange message. 3 weeks after no contact from the crew, an undelivered text reached one of the meteorologists. "Thanks. Storm sails shredded last night. Now bare poles," it said, referring to the fact that the boat was still on the move. The family of a 19-year-old girl on the boat took that message as hope that she was still alive. Their private search turned up satellite photos that they thought might be of the missing yacht, although most experts believe it was just a large wave. And with that, it's now time for today's subscriber pick. Today's photo was sent to us by a subscriber. If you come across a photo online and want to know more details about it, just send it over to us. We might even feature it on a future video. This is actually a fake photoshopped picture of a ship frozen in ice, but we get the idea behind it. A ship named SS Bechimo had a similar story to this picture. Built in the early 1920s, this is one of the real-life ghost ships, which in 1931 became trapped in ice. Used to trade pelts for provisions in Inuit settlements along the north coast of Canada, the SS Bechimo was no stranger to harsh conditions. This 230-foot cargo steamer had just been freed from pack ice a week earlier, when it got stuck even worse on October 8, 1931, leading over half of its crew to abandon it, while 15 remained to wait out the winter nearby in a wooden shelter that they had built. When a blizzard struck on November 24th, the ship was later found to be missing and assumed sunken. But it turned up 3 days later, 45 miles away. The crew gathered up the cargo and abandoned the ship, believing it wouldn't survive the winter. But once again, it did not sink. Over the next several decades, sightings of the Bechimo were reported all over the coast, and some people even boarded the ship. It was last seen stuck in ice off the Alaskan coast in 1969. Did it finally sink? Maybe. Or maybe it will turn up once again. The Mary Celeste. Probably the most famous real-life ghost ship story embraces the Mary Celeste, found adrift in the Atlantic Ocean in 1872 in a completely unharmed condition, with all its sails still up, the crew's personal belongings intact, and a cargo hold of over 1,500 alcohol barrels untouched. The only things missing were the lifeboat the captain's logbook, and most importantly, the entire crew. Since a pirate's attack could not be held responsible for such a phenomenon, theories of crew mutiny, waterspout killing, and consumption of poisonous food leading to madness came into being. Which one of these stories did you find the most interesting? Let us know in the comments. And if you enjoyed the video, don't forget to like it, and also subscribe to our channel for more amazing content daily.